Hey, what's up? I'm Darkbblue, trying to help everyone enjoy games in depth. You are looking at a leveling guide for the Slormancer, which will cover the entire process from starting a fresh character to beating the normal Netherrealm. This video is divided into 4 sections. First, we'll go through the campaign, then between level 40 to 70, aka early endgame. Next, a section will be dedicated to Nostrus Trial, and finally, how to beat the Netherrealm. After the process covered by this video, you will enter Primordial Netherrealm, which is the true endgame of this game, and that's where you can implement your final build. This will be covered in my next video. You can choose which video and which section to watch based on your current stage. Starting a new game, we need to select a character. These characters are relatively well balanced, and this video's guide can be applied to all of them, so you can choose whichever you like. As the game goes on, you will unlock various mechanisms in the Slormancer, along with tutorial text introducing you to them. Here I will talk several aspects in detail. The first you need to pay attention to is attribute points. My recommendation is first 10 Savagery for Reaper damage multiplier, then 10 Fury for crit chance, and next 10 Zeal for ancestral chance. What is ancestral chance? Basically, your crit hits have a chance which is based on this ancestral chance to do a super critical hit that deals much more damage and triggers all kinds of additional effects. So ancestral chance is very important. Finally, you can level up to 55 Savagery for armor penetration and raw damage bonus. Of course, since you will beat the campaign at around level 40, you won't be able to really achieve this goal then. You can see this as a longer term target. Next, let's talk passives. In the Slormancer, every skill has its own skill tree. As you can see, these passives are divided into different layers, where only one passive from the same layer can be active at the same time, so you need to make your decision and craft your own skill form. Leveling up these passives costs Slurm, which is obtained from defeated enemies. Putting Slurm into your passives not only makes these passives more powerful, but also has an additional benefit. See here, at the top left corner, the more Slurm you spend on passives, the more raw damage you have. So even when you have fully leveled up the passives that you actually use, it's important that you keep investing Slurm into those passives you don't use. The third thing is about Mastery. At level 10, you will unlock Mastery, choosing one from 3 choices. During leveling, I recommend choosing the mastery that can directly increase your damage output without, too complicated mechanics. For example, I'm playing the mage using the Arcane Missile skill. I choose this skill because one of its passives can reduce the mana cost to 0, which is especially useful in early gameplay. Notice that Arcane Missile is a projectile skill, so it can benefit from pierce, rebound, and fork chances. I also noticed that the first mastery of Mage can directly increase my rebound chance and give me additional projectiles, so this is a very good choice for early game. Lastly, it's time for everyone's favorite, gears. In the Slormancer, the level of gears really matters. To be specific, the stats on gears are of 2 types, flat stats and percent stats. The values of flat stats increase with every level, and the values of percent stats significantly increase at few certain levels. Considering the importance of gear level, my recommendation is to switch to a new gear whenever it has a higher level than what you are equipping right now. Also, you will be rewarded with 2 legendary gears during campaign. They should be replaced by higher level gears too. As you progress the campaign, you will unlock the crafting system. The most important thing you need to know here is that you can actually scroll down this list and see more options. Using this menu, you can reroll the stats on a gear quite freely. However, it costs some resources, so during campaign you want to reroll only normal stats. You want as many raw damage stats as possible. Besides this, you can roll a life regeneration on your cape, which is an important source of survivability during campaign. What about defense stats? Should you reroll them? You need to first know the defense mechanics of the Slormancer. In this game, you have 3 basic defense stats. Armor reduces skill damage, elemental resistance reduces elemental damage, and evasion gives you a chance to evade an attack entirely. During campaign, you want to invest into the 3 evenly, and the randomly dropped defense stats can satisfy this need, so you don't have to reroll them. As you unlock the crafting system, you also unlock the loot filter located at the bottom right corner of your inventory. During campaign, you can hide all normal items and show all the others. Well, normal items are not necessarily useless since we only want the normal and defense stats on the gear. We are hiding them only because there are just too many of them, making manually salvaging them too much work. Also notice that the hidden items are not simply hidden, but automatically dismantled or sold at the spot. Therefore, you won't be losing any resources when using the loot filter. You can transform the normal items hidden into fragments and manually sell higher rarity gears for golders. Additionally, you can turn on the auto pickup function in settings. Following the advice above, beating the campaign won't be too hard for you. For reference, I was around level 40 when beating the campaign. The boss of the garden chapter is a scarecrow. After losing some health, it will gain a shield that prevents any damage. You need to walk on the spawned pumpkins to break the shield, as being shown right now. After the campaign, talk to Nostrus and return to the entrance to the palace and check out the announcement board. Here you can see the guiding goals of the endgame. But the guidance is, well, really terrible, so I'll guide you in my own way. The most important thing is to craft a build. During the campaign, you will loot a few weapons. Go through what you have right now and pick one that can directly boost your damage output. For example, if a weapon bonuses your projectile-related stats, you can craft a projectile build. If a weapon boosts your overdrive damage, you can make an overdrive build. However, I cannot tell you exactly which weapon to use. This is because what weapons you have at the current stage is very random. You have to improvise by yourself. After changing your build, you may want to level up your new weapon and skills. To do this, go to the Academy chapter and choose this map. Also turn on the option that matches the map level to your level. There are 3 big breaches in this map, making it a good place for experience farming. Now let me give you 2 additional pieces of advice for your build. 1. Solely relying on the life regeneration effect on the cape might be insufficient now, so you can reroll a life leech on the glove and 1 life on hate on your helmet or other gears. And 2. You may be forced to switch to a skill that consumes a lot of mana. To generate enough mana, you want to reroll 1 mana leech or 1 mana on hate. Now you have obtained a new build. Let's next talk about how to enhance your gears. First of all, you don't need to update your gears so frequently at the current stage, as the crafting cost will increase. So only switch to a new gear when it's at least 5 levels higher than what you have right now. Then for the loot filter, you can hide all white and green items and show all the others. The hidden gears should be transformed to golds and fragments, switching between the 2 options from time to time, ensuring that they are roughly of the same amount. When you luckily get a legendary gear, don't use it, since it's very likely that its unique effect has no use to you. Simply sell it, but don't dismantle it. Previously in the campaign stage, you only rerolled normal stats. Now reroll normal, magic, and rare stats, but don't reroll epic stats, as it would be too expensive and not that profitable. As you can notice, the values of epic stats are significantly lower than the lower rarity stats of the same effect. In addition, I believe it's time to introduce you to attribute stats. They can give you additional attribute points, at most 3 per gear, so you can get 33 attribute points from gears in total, which is huge. If you have achieved the attribute goal introduced in the campaign stage, consider leveling bravery a bit for a movement speed bonus. Also, you'll need to start upgrading your gears. Every gear has a potential bar, filled by gaining experience. Once it's full, you will notice a yellow star icon on the gear. This is when you can go to the Slormancer NPC and upgrade this gear. Upgrading a gear can increase the values of all the stats on it. At the current stage, upgrade a gear to no more than +5, as exceeding +5 might be too expensive. Next, let's talk the 3 endgame modes. You can enter them by interacting with the NPC beside the announcement board. I will provide a more detailed introduction to them in a dedicated video, and in this one I will offer a more brief illustration. The first mode is called Battlefield. You'll need to close all the breaches in the map. Once the remaining breaches are no more than 5, you can open the portal and enter the next layer. After 2 to 4 layers of breach closing, you will face a boss fight. I suggest that you don't return to the town until you finish the boss fight, as it's very rewarding and counts as one endgame trial objective. The difficulty of Battlefield is counted as Wraith, from Wraith 0 to Wraith 10. At the current stage, don't expect to beat Wraith higher than 5. What's the benefit of Battlefield? First, the elite enemies in Battlefield drop Elder Slum, which serves as the entrance ticket of the other 2 endgame modes. And 2, you can gain influence when successfully returning to the town from Battlefield, and one trial objective requires you to gain 50 influence levels in total. The second mode is called Slurm Temple, where you need to finish a series of rooms until you gain a large chunk of pure slurm at the end. Randomly, small chunks of pure slurm may also spawn along the way, which can be seen as lucky drops. The 2 benefits of this mode are, first, you can use pure slurm to level up the options listed in this page. Currently, you want to level up Elder Slum gain to between 50 and 100 and Elder Slum capacity to 25. Don't level up the other options, and don't level up the 2 options beyond the recommended tier, so that you can spend less pure slurm. And 2, per 10 levels you will be rewarded an ultimatum. The experience gain ultimatum at level 10 and the movement speed ultimatum at level 20 might be the only 2 ultimatums that are actually meaningful. You want to fully upgrade the experience gain ultimatum, but the movement speed ultimatum can be left to upgrade in the next video stage. The third endgame mode is the Great Forge. It won't be unlocked until you finish your first Slurm Temple run. It's like a Crucible mode, where you need to fight waves of enemies until wave 100. For each wave, you need to select a challenge paired with a reward. When selecting the challenge, try to avoid the following dangerous ones. Shadow challenges, such as Shadow Curse and Shadow Clone, are very dangerous. The challenges that conflict with your current build, such as less projectile speed and range for projectile builds, and dot resistance for dot builds, should be avoided. And lastly, random curse should be avoided. It actually forces you to pick a very dangerous challenge in the next wave. The difficulty of the Great Forge is also counted in race levels, but you should pick a race level 2 to 3 levels lower than what you can beat the battlefield at, as the Great Forge is much harder. At the current stage, you mainly gain two benefits from this mode. First, you should prioritize Reaper's Mace Spirit rewards. This can be spent at the Dwarf Blacksmith to level up Reaper's Mace affinity. Note that every weapon is forged by a certain Reaper's Mace, and the affinity level in correspondence to this Reaper's Mace can increase the values of this weapon's damage and unique effects. Second, a siege boss will randomly spawn in the Great Forge per 5 waves. The base spawn rate is the same as the wave count, but certain challenges can increase the spawn rate, which should be prioritized so that you can fight the boss earlier. After defeating it, you can pick one rune. Runes are also upgraded using Reaper's Mace Spirits. As additional information, I was mainly doing Battlefield. I no longer did Slurm Temple once I leveled up the two specific options and the ultimatum. I still did the Great Forge along with Battlefield when the Elder Slurm is nearly full. However, I only ran around 30 ways to collect runes. You can take my experience as reference. Now we have finished a build, gear, and endgame mode, the three most important aspects of the endgame. With that done, let's go through some small tips and notices. First, some trial objectives might be harder to accomplish than others. For example, the one that requires 1 Class 6 gear won't be accomplished since you are updating to higher level gears frequently. It doesn't matter, as you can do the second stage objectives in advance. Second, somewhere between level 50 and 55, the percent stats on the gears will see their values increase for the last time. At this point, you can sense great increase in your build power. And third, somewhere between level 60 and 65, your weapon will become primordial. This will again give you a great increase in your build power. And finally, after level 65, there won't be any obvious power increase, so the grinding might feel very boring. Considering this, I suggest you prepare for the Nostrus boss fight after reaching level 70. This can make things a bit more fun. Also, one stage 2 objective requires you to finish 100 waves of the Great Forge at race 3. This can be a bit hard, so you can do this after you defeat Nostrus. Now let's talk the Nostrus boss fight. This fight is at level 100, race 8, so it is extremely hard. First, you need to switch to a projectile build if you are not using one already. The Hunters can use Arrow Shot, the Mage can use Arcane Missile, and the Knight can use Elder Lance. There are 3 suitable weapons: Sharpshooter, Spider Nest, and Resounding Drum. You can use the one you have. You need to update all gears to higher than level 75. After going beyond this level, do not switch your gears any further, but polish what you have right now carefully. Reroll your white, green, and blue stats as what you did before. However, this time, you can reroll epic stats a bit as well. There are 3 epic stats per gear, but you don't need to have all of them rerolled perfectly. To be specific, the stats you want are 1 life leech, 1 life regeneration, and 1 life on hit, 1 mana leech, or 1 mana on hit. Pierce and rebound chance. If the 2 chances are maxed out, further invest into fork chance and projectile speed. Invest into raw damage, crit chance, crit damage, attack speed, cooldown reduction evenly. And lastly, grab max life, armor, and elemental resistance, but do not roll any evasion. Switch your attribute leveling plan along with the attribute stats on the gears. This is what you want: 10 Fury for crit chance, 10 Zeal for ancestral chance, then max out Toughness for survivability. Basically, once you have the sum of max life and armor exceed 25,000, and the sum of max life and elemental resistance exceed 25,000, you can easily survive Nostrus. But what about our damage output? It's time to learn Reaper stats and Mastery stats. The values of Reaper stats can roll between 1 to 5, so it's really hard to max them. It's acceptable as long as the value is at least 3. The values of Mastery stats can roll between 1 and 2, so it's very easy to max them. So what is Reaper stat? Remember that you can level up Reaper Smith's affinity at the Dwarf Blacksmith. These stats give you additional affinity to the specific Reaper Smith so that they can increase both your weapon's damage and its unique effect values. Then what is Mastery stat? It gives you additional skill mastery level. See this, the more mastery level you have for a skill, the more damage it does. You can have in total 22 additional mastery levels from gears, which is huge. At last, put your remaining attribute points into savagery for a bit raw damage bonus, and you should be okay to go. Rolling Reaper and Mastery stats can cost you a lot of golds. My suggestion is to run Battlefield and sell all the legendary gears you can find. With all the stats rolled, upgrade your gears to no more than +8. Nevertheless, you can challenge Nostrus at any time before you even achieve the perfect state. Maybe you can defeat him in advance. Currently, I'm showing you the gears I have when defeating him. With all the gears ready, however, you still need to do a bit memorization. Don't try to face tank everything. Then it shouldn't be too hard to defeat him at around level 80. After the victory, go to do the Great Fork at Raid 3 until you finish all the 100 waves. If you find it become a bit hard, try to turn off the automatically start the next wave function. With all the objectives done, we are ready to enter the next phase, Netherrealm. Let's start with the mapping mechanics of Netherrealm. As you can see here, only a small part of the maps are initially unlocked. The other maps should be unlocked by completing their prerequisite maps. Once you complete all the maps, you are at the end of the final trial stage. You can notice that there are two types of maps. One is mobbing map, each tagged with a fixed curse. In mobbing maps, you need to close enough breaches, similar to what you do in Battlefield. Plus, you can see the breaches are all in red color, indicating that activating them will add a random curse. However, only the fixed curse tagged to each map is much stronger than normal curses. The random curses are the same as normal ones. The other map type is bossing maps, tagged with multiple fixed curses. You need to first close gaps, breaches, before finally challenging the boss. You can see that the Netherrealm maps are really hard. This is especially because of many elemental curses such as Shadow Curse per 1 second, Ice Bomb per 0.3 second, and Fireball with extremely high damage. Is there any solution? Yes, you can use the 5 elemental weapons, each in correspondence to an elemental type. These weapons give you huge resistance to their corresponding elemental types, making you immune to them. Elemental weapons should be paired with elemental imbuement. By finishing the second trial stage, you just obtained a primordial ancestral stone, which is special in that it can be placed in any slot, so it works as a wildcard, allowing you to flexibly switch to different elemental imbuement when switching weapons. With elemental weapons, however, there's still one notably dangerous curse, Shadow Clone. This is because the clones don't always deal shadow damage, so you won't be entirely immune to their attack. Therefore, you may want to take a rather slow and safe strategy when clearing the maps, as shown right now. In addition, there are a few maps with the curse minor minus 99% projectile speed and range. In these maps, just treat your projectile skills as melee skills, and the curse shouldn't be too much a problem. By the way, in this stage, you can toggle the filter to hide all gears other than legendary ones, transforming them into fragment. As for golds, you can earn a lot by selling legendary. Next, we need to talk about a very important mechanic of Netherrealm, legendary target farming. As you can see, after you defeat a boss, you can select one reward from 3 drops. However, each drop can be rerolled once, so in fact you can select one from 6. Then let's check out the information panel of the boss map. Here, 6 or 7 legendary gears are listed. In fact, the boss reward is rolled from this list, which means you can almost certainly do target farming. If a map has 6 possible drops, you are guaranteed to get what you want. If it has 7 possible drops, there's only 1 in 7 chance that you won't get it. Then how to quickly find which map contains the gear you want? On the top right corner of the Netherrealm map, there's a search box. You can tap the name of the legendary and the corresponding map will be highlighted. As a result, you can in fact rather efficiently target farm a full set of legendary gears once you enter Netherrealm. This makes farming certain legendaries before defeating Nostrus look very insufficient, which is why our Nostrus build contains 0 legendary. Here I provide you with a list of legendaries you need. As for their random stats, you can roughly follow the strategy of the Nostrus build. The exception is that we no longer stack max life, armor, and element resistance, but only evasion. Also, the attribute is also changed that we move all the points in toughness into fury to further stack evasion. At this stage, you want to upgrade your gears to plus 11. This might seem very expensive, but there's a trick. First, upgrade the gear normally to plus 7. Then you can insert 30 green Slormancer to max out the critical chance. Here, crit means that after the upgradation, the gear remains at max potential, so that you can directly do the next upgradation. Next, insert 20 purple Slormancer to max out the double chance. Afterward, you can insert a lower tier Slormite rather than the one of the recommended tier, so that it can be cheaper. Finally, insert the blue Slormancer until you get to 100% success rate. In this way, you can get this gear to plus 9 at a rather low cost. For the upgradation to plus 11, you can skip the green Slormancer part. Here, let's check out my recommended build. I'm mainly using rather basic and straightforward legendary effects, maybe with 3 exceptions. First, the belt prevents me from being one-tapped. Normally, doing an evasion-only build does have the risk of being one-tapped, but this belt solves the problem, which is why we are all in evasion. And 2, the glove converts my ancestral chance into crit chance multiplier. At the cost of ancestral strike no longer deals additional damage beyond the critical damage. We're using this because we need to achieve high ancestral and crit chance so that we can trigger certain effects that are only triggered at ancestral hits. And 3, there's a ring that adds damage based on my light shield value. This is, well, not really useful. You can see it mostly as a placeholder. Now you might have one concern. Before the build is completed, some maps are just too hard for the character. For example, the boss at the bottom right corner gains damage bonus per enemy dies, so she can really one-tap you if you don't have this specific belt. For another example, a boss at roughly the top left corner can regenerate life fast, so it requires a lot of damage output. The solution is simple. As you may or may not have noticed, the map rewards are rerolled every time you complete a map, so you can keep rerolling the rewards until one target is rolled in the map that you can do. Taking myself as an example, when I collected all the legendaries, I wasn't even halfway through all the maps. This also leads to another trick. When you do a 7-gear map, if you fail to obtain what you want, do not complete the map, but simply abandon the mission. In this way, the rewards won't be rerolled, so that you can do it again. Once you complete all the Netherrealm maps, you can go to the town and fight the Slormancer. In this fight, you can use the Primordial Light weapon. This weapon turns your max life to 1, but when you gain life, you can shield instead. Here's a strong synergy between this weapon and our belt. When you get damaged and the shield is reduced, the belt effect will also change correspondingly, so that you won't be one-tapped. Using this strategy, the fight will be very easy. Thus far, the entire leveling process is accomplished. After the fight, go to the Netherrealm panel to see that you have unlocked Primordial Netherrealm. This is a true endgame mode, where the ultimate builds are grinded and crafted. This shall be the content of our next video. If you want to play games into depth together with me, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, see you around.